There are weekends in Formula One that expose more than just lap times. They expose the soul of a team. The 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix was one such weekend for Ferrari. From the outside, it may have looked like just another race, but underneath the surface, something far more troubling was unraveling. For Ferrari fans, it wasn't just about results. It was about watching two of the sport's most talented drivers emotionally unravel, side by side with no clear path forward. It began with Lewis Hamilton, a name synonymous with excellence, control, and mental strength. But after qualifying in Budapest, Lewis said something we've rarely if ever heard from him in public. "It's me every time. I'm useless. Absolutely useless." It wasn't a comment hidden behind garage doors or whispered in the ears of engineers. It was out in the open. To the media, to fans, to the world. That moment hit harder than any on-track collision. This is a 7-time world champion, a driver who has fought through every kind of adversity, now calling himself useless. Not blaming the car, not blaming the team, blaming himself. But this wasn't just self-pity, it was an emotional admission that something is broken, something deep within Ferrari's structure or mindset that even Hamilton can't fix right now. He was knocked out in Q2, his teammate was on pole, and when Lewis walked out of the FIA garage with his helmet still on, hands shielding his face from the cameras, he looked like a man who didn't just lose a qualifying session, he looked like a man carrying the weight of a failing dream. Ferrari didn't just sign Hamilton for performance, they signed him for vision, for legacy, for leadership. And yet here he was, visibly shaken, emotionally cornered, doubting himself in front of millions. Something at Ferrari is eating away at even the strongest minds. And if Lewis is breaking, the rest of the house may already be on fire. But the storm inside Ferrari didn't end with Lewis. Charles Leclerc, the sitter, the hopeful, the one who looked set to resurrect Ferrari's momentum, ended the race not with champagne, but with shattered expectations and another public meltdown. He led a huge chunk of the race. He looked composed, sharp, clinical, but as the laps progressed and Ferrari's strategy once again started to crumble, everything came undone. He finished 5th, 2 places shy of the podium. His voice over team radio wasn't just frustrated, it was fed up. "This is so incredibly frustrating. We've lost all competitiveness. You just have to listen to me. It's undrivable." This wasn't the first time Leclerc lashed out at the pit wall, but this one felt different. It sounded final, like a man who had run out of patience, like someone who's been saying the same things for years and watched nothing change. And what makes it even more tragic is that just minutes later, after stepping out of the car and into the media pen, Charles took back his words. He said he'd spoken too soon, that he didn't have the full picture, that he jumped to conclusions. It was an apology no one asked for, but one that told us everything. Leclerc wasn't just walking back his anger, he was masking his helplessness. He knows something is wrong, but like Lewis, he also knows he's powerless to change it. Ferrari has created a situation where both of its star drivers feel isolated. One blames himself, the other blames the team and then regrets saying it out loud. Neither path leads to a solution. And for fans watching from home, it's becoming harder and harder to believe in the dream. Ferrari keeps selling that next race, next season, it will all finally come together. And while the Ferrari camp descended into emotional chaos, the rest of the paddock watched and thrived. Most notably, McLaren, because while Ferrari was cracking under its own weight, Lando Norris was putting on a clinic. Cool, under pressure, ruthless in execution. His race was everything Ferrari's wasn't: coordinated, adaptive, and victorious. And the symbolism couldn't have been clearer to young talents, Leclerc and Norris, on very different journeys. One struggling with a team that can't deliver under pressure, the other climbing to the top with a team that's finally figured out how to unleash its potential. Lando's win in Hungary wasn't just good for the championship, it was devastating for Ferrari. It was a reminder that their rivals are not just evolving, they're sprinting ahead. McLaren's strategy calls were precise. Their car was fast in every condition, and their internal harmony was on full display. After the race, Lando celebrated with his girlfriend and his team, while Charles walked away alone and Lewis avoided eye contact. The contrast wasn't just emotional, it was organizational. McLaren looked like a team, Ferrari looked like a battlefield. And the pain for Ferrari didn't stop at the checkered flag, because behind the scenes, paddock cameras caught Mercedes boss Toto Wolff walking out of the Ferrari motorhome. His visit was brief but pointed. What was he doing there? Who was he talking to? Speculation was immediate and intense. And in a sport like F1, where power dynamics shift rapidly, that kind of unexplained meeting only fuels the fire that Ferrari is in deeper turmoil than they're letting on. Is Toto sniffing around talent? Is he gauging internal fractures? Either way, it didn't look good. Off track, things were equally revealing. Hamilton didn't stick around long. He offered no follow-up to his scathing comments from Saturday. Just a cryptic line about a lot going on in the background. That's not something you hear from a driver in control. That's what you hear when a storm is brewing behind closed doors: politics, disagreements, possibly even cracks in the leadership itself. And what's perhaps most alarming is that these kinds of signals aren't isolated anymore. Ferrari seems to be in a loop: public optimism, internal conflict, poor execution, and post-race damage control, again and again. Meanwhile, Gabriele Bortoleto, in a less powerful car, fought hard and earned praise from Alonso's camp. McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin, they all seem to be pulling their weight. Yet Ferrari, with all its resources, with arguably the most star driver lineup on the grid, remains stuck. They can't afford this. Not when the mid-season break is here, and momentum is everything. When Formula One resumes at Zandvoort, Ferrari won't just need upgrades to their car, they'll need a reset of their entire competitive mindset. Because at this point, even their fans, fiercely loyal, stubbornly hopeful, are starting to ask the hard questions. How long can you keep believing in a comeback that never comes? How long can you keep calling it bad luck when it starts to look like bad leadership? And if the second half of the season mirrors the first, will either Leclerc or Hamilton still believe this team is capable of winning a title lever? There's a saying in Formula One: pressure reveals character, and the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix revealed something. Ferrari will have to confront with brutal honesty. Their greatest enemy isn't Red Bull or McLaren, it's themselves. Internally, Ferrari is a storm of misalignment, public contradictions, and wounded pride, and that's the most dangerous kind of instability because it can't be fixed with upgrades or wind tunnel hours. It requires leadership, clarity, unity, all things Ferrari seems to be missing right now. The rest of the F1 world is moving fast. Lando and Oscar Piastri are locked in a title battle. Red Bull is quietly preparing their resurgence, and even Aston Martin has been steadily climbing, but Ferrari, they're caught in an emotional tug-of-war between past glory and present chaos. You could feel it in every frustrated team radio, every downcast walk through the paddock, every hollow post-interview, and unless something changes drastically in the coming weeks, Ferrari's season won't just be it'll be a case study in how a great team can lose its way. So here's the uncomfortable question. Is Ferrari's myth blinding them from their own reality? And if Hamilton and Leclerc, two of the most talented drivers on the grid, can't fix this, who can? If you felt the weight of this weekend, if you believe Ferrari deserves better, or if you just want to see how this saga unfolds, make sure you're subscribed, leave a comment, tell us what you think is going wrong, because sometimes the only way to rebuild greatness is to break the silence.